Ever since Walking with Dinosaurs premiered in 1999, I think a lot of people were waiting for a similar kind of documentary to be released. Since 1999, there were plenty of dinosaur documentaries, and while some of them were pretty good, none of them really got the same feeling that Walking with Dinosaurs did, not even its direct sequels. However, that would soon change when in April of 2022, we got a glimpse at something glorious.
This is Prehistoric Planet.
Out of the blue, we got some teasers for a brand new documentary series coming to Apple TV Plus in May called Prehistoric Planet, being helmed by the same people who made the Planet Earth and Blue Planet documentaries, including being narrated by the one and only Sir David Attenborough. From the glimpses that we got in the trailers, this seemed to be the documentary series that many of us have been waiting years for. A proper spiritual successor to Walking with Dinosaurs, showcasing many scientifically up-to-date dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures rendered in phenomenal CGI. And now, only one question remains. Now that the series has been released in full, did it live up to the hype? Is this truly the Walking with Dinosaurs sequel we've all been waiting for? The short answer to that is a resounding yes. I don't know if this is just recency bias talking, since at the time of writing this script the show just finished airing, but Prehistoric Planet might be one of, if not the greatest dinosaur documentary ever made. In nearly every single aspect, it's fantastic. From its presentation, to its effects, to the way its creatures are depicted, to its score, everything about this show is consistently great, easily blowing nearly every other dinosaur documentary ever made out of the water and then some. This is absolutely the Walking with Dinosaurs spiritual successor we've been waiting so long for. However, I think that saying that this show is Walking with Dinosaurs 2 is kind of like comparing apples to oranges, and that's because Prehistoric Planet as a show is much more in line with Planet Earth than it is with the Walking With series. Prehistoric Planet takes the approach of having its 5 episodes center around different habitats and have 5 to 6 segments hop around different places around the world and focus on those habitats, as opposed to being centered on one specific time and place. So instead of having an episode dedicated to North America and an episode dedicated to Asia, instead it has episodes focused on coastlines and deserts and so on and so forth. And personally, I think this is very much a big strength of the show, because it allows for a lot more variation in unique settings. Ironic considering that each episode is focused around one particular habitat, but you know what I mean. If there is anything I can critique about this structure, is that I do think that certain segments do feel slightly out of place with the episodes that they are put in. The biggest culprit being in episode 3, where a good majority of the segments are only tangentially related to the topic of the episode, that being freshwater. This isn't to say that these segments are bad. Literally everyone I've seen talk about this show is in agreement that that velociraptor hunt is the coolest velociraptor thing ever, but it would have been nice to have some more direct focus on the topic at hand. If there is any other things that I have to complain about, I would say that there are some occasions where the CGI doesn't look that great. Sometimes the weight of the creatures isn't properly portrayed well enough, or the integration into the backgrounds isn't the best, or there are some occasions where the models clip in on themselves. But these are only shots that at most last for a few seconds and don't detract too much from the overall episodes. One complaint that I've seen people have is how each episode is a bit too short, but honestly, after seeing each episode twice, I don't really see it. I do think that each episode ends a bit abruptly, like David Attenborough will just be talking about how a certain dinosaur is doing something, and then you get, "To discover the science behind the stories, visit the Prehistoric Planet show page." And then it cuts to credits and I'm just like,
that's it?
So yeah, just some out of place segments, occasionally wonky CGI, and abrupt endings. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I dislike. Now, as for what I do enjoy, basically everything else. Starting off with that presentation, and my god, that presentation. This show feels like a camera crew went back in time to properly film dinosaurs in action, and honestly, it is perfect. The way that this is shot and presented doesn't feel staged, rather it feels like the camera crew were in the right place at the right time, which is impressive, especially considering that all of these animals are controlled at the whim of a bunch of animators. There's a lot of really neat camera work here as well that adds a lot of variety to the whole thing. Aside from just the general cinematography, which is is just gorgeous, with dozens of shots per episode that I could frame on my wall, but also numerous different techniques such as wide shots, close-ups, bird's eye views, but you also get other things such as nighttime camera footage and time lapses, which, once again, make this feel more authentic and like an actual BBC nature documentary. What also helps is David Attenborough's wonderful narration. The man sounds exactly the same for something like this and one of his other nature documentaries, and if you don't believe me, then listen for yourself.
A smooth stingray. It's huge, about 4 meters long. It wants a soft, freshly molted crab that will be easier to eat. Barbarodactylus. Powerful predatory pterosaurs that normally catch fish, but the hatchlings are too good to miss.
The man is really putting in the effort, and I can respect that immensely. This is also elevated by the brilliant score done by Hans Zimmer, which really adds a sense of grandeur and wonder to the whole thing. There's quite a bit of range in the music too, from standard sweeping orchestras to badass guitar riffs, and even goofy lighthearted music. It's an extremely varied score that does a great job at accompanying each scene that it's placed in, and I seriously hope for an official release of it sometime soon. Another thing I want to bring up really quick is the CGI in this show. I know I just complained about it a bit earlier, but I gotta give credit where it's due. This is some of the best CGI I have ever seen from anything. The effects work was done by MPC, which has quite a huge list of movies and shows in their catalog, and they did a phenomenal job here. Each creature is not only beautifully detailed, but they are also integrated into their backgrounds near seamlessly. The way they're animated too also feels very lifelike. These models aren't moving around like robots or have no weight to them whatsoever. They feel like they are a part of their environment, and they have a real sense of weight to them. One more thing I want to add is the sound design of this show. Here's a fun fact for a lot of you kiddies at home. Dinosaurs couldn't actually roar. I know, I was shocked when I first learned that too. So to compensate, the creators of the show had to resort to using sound effects from creatures such as birds and crocodiles to try and recreate what dinosaurs could have sounded like, and personally, I think they did a wonderful job. A lot of these sound effects don't sound artificial or mixed together, they feel like what these dinosaurs actually sounded like. I think there's only one instance of a reused sound effect, and that's this T-Rex roar from Jurassic Park being reused. But that's basically it. So yeah, when it comes to presentation and production aspects of this show, I think it is genuinely top notch. Moving on from those, we get to the creatures themselves, and my word, they are glorious. Starting with the obvious thing, the designs. The designs are phenomenal, and some of the best designs for these creatures I have ever seen. I think out of the entire catalog of creature designs, there's only one that I do not really like, and that's Ornithomimus. I'm sure it's accurate and whatnot, but to me, it kind of just looks like one of those models from the Japanese dinosaur documentaries where they kind of just throw feathers onto a random dinosaur without any sort of thought as to how they would actually work. But aside from that, I pretty much love every other design. The list of designs that I love is endless, so if I had to pick 5, I'd probably go with Carnotaurus, Alaratitan, Dreadnoughtus, Deinonychus, and Hoffman's Mosasaur. But then yet again, there are very few designs that I think are lackluster. A good 95% of the models in this show look utterly stellar. Aside from the models, you also have the way that these animals are portrayed. Now, usually in paleo media, you have your dinosaurs put into 2 groups. You have your carnivores, which are brutal and vicious psychopaths, and your herbivores, which are there to remind you about how dinosaurs are actually really cool, and you gotta remember that these creatures are truly worthy of your admiration, and they're beautiful. And do you remember the first time you saw a dinosaur? Oh boy, those Jurassic videos are gonna be fun, aren't they? Prehistoric Planet, however, ditches this stereotype and depicts dinosaurs just as regular creatures just hanging out and doing creature things. This ranges from herbivores duking it out and being vicious to carnivores just hanging out and being a couple of goofy little guys. You do get bits of carnivores being aggressive hunters and herbivores being peaceful, but I love the fact that there is a differentiation there at all. It makes for something that is much more interesting. Dinosaurs are allowed to do things that aren't just killing each other, and you love to see it. I've been talking a lot about dinosaurs in this video, but I gotta give some love to the other creatures in this show. Pterosaurs, marine reptiles, and even other kinds of animals get a pretty good chunk of the spotlight too. Whether it be a little lizard looking for some snacks around sleeping dinosaurs, an ammonite light show, plesiosaurs eating rocks, rocks, a mosasaur having a spa day, or the ever-beloved bisexual femboy pterosaurs. The non-dinosaur creatures get just as much love and respect as the dinosaurs, and it's great to see. Another thing that is really cool is a lot of the speculative behaviors that this show incorporates. There is a lot of pulling from nature as well as pulling straight from fossil evidence, such as how the arms of the carnotaurs are on ball and socket joints, allowing them to be moved around independently, and that's supposedly being used as a part of a mating dance. It makes sense, but it's also very speculative, and I like that. They aren't just purely sticking with the facts, they're getting creative and weird with it, and that's really cool. It's a heck of a lot more interesting than just sticking with what we know, and it allows for much more fun depictions of these creatures. Let me tell you right now, the moment I saw that Carnotaurus mating dance, it instantly became my new favorite theropod. Move over, losers, daddy has a new favorite. So I think that should be everything I wanted to bring up regarding this show, and as for any final thoughts, Prehistoric Planet is an absolutely glorious love letter to those who love all things relating to dinosaurs in the Mesozoic era as a whole. Would I go as far in saying that this is the best dinosaur documentary of all time? Honestly, that's hard to say. I will always love the stuff that I grew up with as a kid. The Chase By specials, I think, will always remain my favorite dinosaur documentaries, but I definitely think, if nothing else, Prehistoric Planet takes up a pretty solid third place right behind those two. Watching this show made me feel like a kid again, excited to learn about dinosaurs and the world that they lived in, and while the show was airing, I would confidently say that the show is my happy place, and it still is to an extent. I know people are complaining about having to get yet another streaming service just to watch this series, but I 100% enforce that people can do what they can in order to support this show officially. Get the 7-day free trial and binge it as much as you want. Show Apple and the BBC that we want more stuff like Prehistoric Planet, and hopefully we can get a season 2 or a spin-off out of this. This show was already immensely popular its first week, only being beaten out by Obi-Wan Kenobi, the mid-season finale of Better Call Saul, and the season 4 premiere of Stranger Things. And the fact that it did that well at all is genuinely very impressive. But even still, as it stands, Prehistoric Planet is an absolute triumph among dinosaur documentaries, and has certainly raised the bar for future documentaries of this type. And I'm gonna give Prehistoric Planet a very highly coveted 10 out of 10. But these were just my thoughts, and I want to know yours. What did you guys think of Prehistoric Planet? What was your favorite episode? Is it better or worse than Walking with Dinosaurs? Who was your favorite creature, and what was your favorite segment? Be sure to sound off all of those thoughts in the comments section below, follow me on my social medias, and join my Discord server, which are all linked in the description below, and subscribe if you like what you saw and want to see more. Either way, I'm Sam the Geigen fan, telling you all to wash your hands and do what you can to support Prehistoric Planet.